balanced. Hi, hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm Hannah, and today you are watching a little sit and knit with me, I guess. So I'm gonna be knitting while I answer some questions I've concocted. It's kind of like a knit tube newbie tag kind of thing. I kind of got the idea from like years ago when I watched a similar kind of thing on booktube, like a booktube newbie tag. Anyway, I've just came up with some questions, and I guess I will answer them as I knit along. And you can grab your knitting or whatever width you have um on hand. um I'm doing this little bandana thing. It's not actually too far from being finished, or this little section anyway. And I've got my yarn from Hobbycraft. Can't remember the color number, I'm sorry, but you can just see all the lovely summery colors here. Lots and lots of color. So I'm just gonna continue knitting on this and get on to some of the questions, I guess. I'm not going to make this introduction too long because that's just a waste of time, I kind of guess. Anyway, so the first question is, why did I start knitting? So I started knitting because I just found it so darn relaxing. Like, I don't know about you, but when I'm knitting, especially if I'm knitting something for the sake of just having something to sit and knit, I just feel so relaxed. I know what I'm doing. I know I know it's a good I know it's a good form of just relaxation and being able to express yourself at the same time, because knitting is an art, and I wish more people would see it as such. And I kind of feel like it's a bit of sexism that's responsible for the fact that it's not so readily accepted as an art. And anything fashion related is very struggle to be seen in the same sphere as art. Anyway, yeah, so I just picked up knitting because it was so relaxing, and my brain just feels so quiet and so relaxed and so happy when I'm knitting. Like, I'm such a process knitter. Don't get me wrong, having a finished product is amazing. And the more I knit, the better my finished products will be. But for now, you know, there's been some hit and misses in the few weeks that since I started knitting, or considering myself a knitter. So yeah, that's why I picked up knitting. My earliest knitting memory is the next one. So I actually learned how to do the basics of knitting when I was like 10 or 9. So almost like a decade ago. I was in primary school, and we had, like, our class teacher held like a little knitting group. Well, like a knitting club ran by herself and a teacher volunteer. And I just remember that. And I also had my mom, who has been into crochet. Sorry, I just need to start this bubble. My mom's been into crochet for a while, and I also grew up with a grandma who also loves to knit. So I had a lot of influences around me at that time. But yeah, I remember going to that little club and learning how to knit there, and it was such a lovely experience. I don't obviously remember it super clearly, but I definitely remember, like, the first time someone came in with a finished scarf and things like that. It was great. Favorite needle size. So anything from 3.5, like 3.5 is like the smallest I feel comfortable using, and then like 5 is probably the biggest, like the largest I feel comfortable holding, and the like 4mm needle, that is like the Goldilocks of all needles. absolutely. I don't know if it's just me, but 4mm. I'm using 3.5 at the moment. But yeah, 4mm needles. You can't beat them. Favorite yarn material. So if I am willing to splurge, I will treat myself to some cotton blends. You know, like, because they're just so good for, you know, like summer knits and things like that. Like you can't beat it in that regard. You just can't. Cotton is just love it, and it's so like it's probably the most affordable compared to others. If you're looking for the most affordable yarn, I would say acrylic. A lot of people look down on acrylic, but I don't agree with that. Like, I'm literally using acrylic here. Like this wool, this shush wool is 20% wool, 80% acrylic. And it's the most affordable. So, you know, like there is nothing wrong with using acrylic if, you know, because obviously getting your hands on blends and tweeds and things like that, it all depends on your access and budget to get to small independent businesses, and not everyone can do that. So yeah, favorite knitting and watch slash listen. So just now I am watching Ghosts, BBC Ghosts. It is a comedy about, well, ghosts. And basically this poor woman falls and can now see ghosts. And they aren't scary ghosts, they're just a bit mad. To say the least. Very needy. Which I think is kind of the point of the comedy part of the show. Anyway, written and made by the same people that made and that worked on Horrible Histories, which is one of my childhood favorites. Ghosts is a adult comedy, so it was described, I think, officially as Horrible Histories, but for adult, I wouldn't agree with that. Horrible Histories was a skit show. Ghosts is not a skit; it's a sitcom, a situational comedy. Anyway, yeah, it's so good. I would definitely recommend, if you haven't watched anything by the Six Idiots, do yourself a favor and bless yourself with some, like, honestly, the Six Idiots are just the bread and butter of UK comedy. So yeah, just definitely go ahead and treat yourself and watch some Ghosts. Okay, so the next question is front pool or inside pool. So basically what I mean by that is, do you take your yarn from there, or do you take it from, where's the outside? Inside or outside pool. So do you take it from here, or do you take it from there? As you can see, I take it from the inside. I'm an inside pool person now, because it just keeps your ball of wool, ball of yarn, should I say, just so better intact, like so much better intact. So, and taking the outside pool, I just feel like the ball of wool loses its structure very, very, very quickly. So that's my reasoning behind that. We're on to the next page questions. Sorry. Name a project on your bucket list for the year. So before the year is out, I want to have made myself my first sweater, because that's going to take a lot of techniques I've yet to actually use. Because I know you can knit and assemble sweaters by knitting on straight needles, but I have only ever seen patterns and things for doing it in the round, and I feel like that's became a more and more common practice for sweaters. And some people just knit in the round for everything, pretty much. So you know, I kind of feel like I'm gonna have to give knitting in the round for like a smaller project a go before I go ahead and do it for a big old sweater, because a sweater quantity of wool would be expensive. But yeah, that's something I want to do before the end of the year, is definitely a sweater. I've always wanted to have a sweater, and someone asks, "Where did you get it from?" And I'll be like, "I made it." So yeah, I think it's a chunky dahlia. I can't remember where that pattern's from, but I've seen the chunky dahlia around. It was very popular last year. I think that's when the pattern came out for the chunky dahlia. But I've always wanted. I'm definitely not ready to do anything like that. I'll probably do a little color work on a sweater, and that will probably be as adventurous as I'll get. I might even just do a very boring, plain single color sweater to start off with, and then I'll add patterns and color work and other things. But we will see. Question 8 is straight needles or knitting in the round. So as you can see, I'm using straight needles at the moment. But as I just mentioned in my last answer, straight needles, I think they're good up to a point. Like for accessories and things, I think they're great. But when you have to work on bigger projects with a ton of stitches and things like that, I think that's when you begin to have a little bit of a problem. And I think that's why, and so I haven't personally knitted in the round yet because I'm such a new knitter that I haven't done a project that big that knitting in the round has been a requirement. Like I haven't done a sweater or a t-shirt or a pullover or anything like that, you know, like a nothing of the sort. But hopefully I will have done a little project of, I want to get interchangeable needles, and like when I have the ability, I will get myself some interchangeable needles, and I will learn a new technique of knitting in the round. Which I don't think, like in my head, I don't think it's going to be too different. I mean, it will definitely be different, but I think, you know, like the basics will still be there. I guess the difference is that you're building on your needles rather than assembling everything independently as you do with straight needles. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, just now I'm using straight needles, but I see the convenience of knitting in the round, and I will definitely be purchasing round needles and training myself how to use those. So the next question is, why did you bring knitting to YouTube? So obviously I just fell in love with knitting as a hobby and as an art form, and just absolutely having the time of my life, exploring that little corner of the internet that also had an interest in knitting. And I came to YouTube because I want to find like-minded people, and I want to find people who are of a similar age and are very similar minded that also love to knit. And I feel like this was the perfect platform to do so. So that's why I'm here. And the 10th and final question is, what do you think you can bring that's different to YouTube? Like I said, I'm such a new knitter. Like I've literally started this YouTube channel weeks into learning how to knit. So if you're watching my channel, we can learn together. I'm not, you know, like I don't have any wisdom or anything to offer, but what I can offer is someone to learn with, a little knitting study buddy. And you know, we can go along with that. We can go on that little journey together. If that makes sense. If you're also learning, if you're a more experienced knitter, I mean, I'm offering you a unique opportunity to go down memory lane to when you were this much of a newbie to knitting. So that's what I have to offer, I guess. I mean, I'm not claiming to have anything special to offer. I'm not here because I think I've got anything to particularly offer. I'm here because um I love knitting and I want to talk about it with people, and this seemed like the best way. And like I said, um if you're also a learner, we can learn together. If you're a more experienced knitter, this can be a little trip down memory lane. And I'm going to finish off as I just finished this row. How perfect timing is that? This is where I've gotten to, I'm not sure how many rows I did. I lost count of how many rows. Like, this is a freehand. This isn't a pattern or anything. I would have told you if it was a pattern at the start. This is just me doing something off the top of my head. So, I haven't got to meet like a row quota or anything. I'm kind of just doing this, a lot of guesswork really with this. But anyway, that's where we're at with the knitting. I hope you enjoyed this little video. I feel like I've just been looking at my knitting the whole time. I hope that isn't off-putting to everyone, but I have got to look at it. Even if it is just garter stitch, I've got to look at it to make sure I'm doing everything correctly. There we go, row finished. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a nice little question and answer session as I sat down and knitted for a wee while. And yeah, so that's today's video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Till next time.